Hi everyone, I'm back to read Chapter 5 called Silent Night, Lucia Night from Kirsten's book 3. When Kirsten woke, Papa was brushing dirt on the fire to put it out. Outside it was very dark. The night sky was clear, but there was no moon. The storm's gone past, Papa said. Now we can make our way home. If you can lead Blackie. I still can't stand on my leg. Kirsten rubbed her eyes and sat up. I can lead him, she said. She rolled up the blanket and Papa helped her into her boots, which he'd warmed by the fire. While Papa crawled slowly down the path, he untied Blackie and hitched him to the sleigh. The fresh snow gleamed in the starlight. It must be very late if the moon has gone down, Kirsten thought. She imagined Mama peering out of the cabin window looking for them. Mama would be worried. As Kirsten led Blackie beside the stream, she watched for familiar landmarks. From time to time, she looked back at Papa in the sleigh and at the painted trunk under its roof of snow. The sleigh bells jingled crisply in the still night. At last, Kirsten recognized a big oak tree and the curve in the stream where she'd often met Singing Bird. But the woods looked different in the deep snow. Was this the place where they would turn to find the farm? She hesitated. Blackie nudged her with his nose. Yes, this must be the way. Before Kirsten saw the cabin and Uncle Olaf's house, she smelled wood smoke. Then they came around a turn, and she saw that candles lit up the windows of Uncle Olaf's house. Everyone was waiting there. They had stayed up all night to look for her and Papa. Kirsten led Blackie right up to Uncle Olaf's door. As they approached, Papa shouted, "We're here! We're safe!" Faces appeared at all the windows, and, the door swung wide, and Mama ran out. "Here you are at last! We were so worried," she said as she hugged Kirsten. "But you're hurt," she added when she saw Papa. She climbed up into the sleigh to hug him too. Everyone crowded around the sleigh, asking questions. Uncle Olaf helped Papa down from the sleigh, and Aunt Inger said, "I'll heat some soup and warm your chilly bones." Elizabeth, Anna, and Miss Winston all hugged Kirsten, and even Lars squeezed her shoulders before he went to untie the trunks. Peter was jumping up and down in front of the stove. "We stayed up all night to watch for you. Even Miss Winston stayed up all night," he said. For a moment, Kirsten stood in the doorway to the kitchen and just stared. It seemed to her that she and Papa had been gone for days instead of hours, and now the world seemed turned upside down. It was the middle of the night, but in the kitchen, where all the lamps were lit, it was as bright as day. Aunt Inger bustled about heating the night clothes. Kirsten smiled to see Uncle Olaf with his nightshirt tucked into his trousers and his sleeping cap still on his head. She smiled to see Anna in her nightgown and Mama's sweater, which trailed down to the floor. Even Miss Winston's hair was unbraided, although she had gotten dressed. At last, Kirsten sat near the warm stove with a bowl of hot soup in front of her. Mama hugged her once more, so hard she was nearly lifted from her chair. "Oh, I knew you shouldn't have gone with your Papa to fetch the trunks," Mama said. "But Papa said, 'Be glad Kirsten came with me. She's a brave girl and a strong one. If she hadn't been along to help me, I'd never have found the cave or my way home.'" Mama put her arm around Papa's waist. "I can believe that Kirsten is as brave as her Papa. Come sit down here and rest your leg. I'll bring you some soup." She smiled at Kirsten. "Don't let yours get cold." Anna and Elizabeth came to sit by Kirsten as she ate. "We were so frightened for you," Anna said. "Our Papa wanted to go out in the storm to search for you, but Mama said he'd never find you on foot. We didn't know what to do. We were scared." Kirsten sipped the thick soup. "I was scared, and then I was too busy to be scared anymore. Anyway, we're here now, and we've got the trunk." Under the table, she gave Anna's hand a squeeze. Anna put her head close to Kirsten's. "You don't want to have our surprise now, do you?" Kirsten grinned. This is St. Lucia Day, and it's the perfect time. She whispered, St. Lucia Day is supposed to wake everyone at 4 in the morning. It must be about 4 now. Elizabeth pulled her chair closer. But how will we surprise everyone when they're all awake anyway? She asked. Kirsten lowered her voice even more. When Lars and Uncle Olaf bring the trunk in, Mama is sure to want to open it. I'll sneak the white dress out. In the meantime, you can get the crown and the tray of bread. And when we're all ready, Miss Winston can tell everyone to shut their eyes. How will that be? It's a grand idea, Anna said. I'll whisper to Miss Winston what she's supposed to do. Lars and Uncle Olaf carried the painted trunk into the middle of the cabin, and when Uncle Olaf lifted the lid, the sweet scent of dried lavender filled the air. Kirsten hurried to Mama's side. Mama reached into the trunk, and out came Sorry. Mama gave the doll a little hug and handed her to Kirsten. I know how much you missed your doll, Kirsten. Last night I missed you and Papa even more. And now we're all together again, even Sorry. Kirsten took Sorry in both hands and looked at her closely in the flickering light. Sorry was just a rag doll with a faded face and a sun-bleached dress. But she was Kirsten's very, very own. And Kirsten pressed Sorry to her cheek. And here's Peter's clay whistle, Mama said. Papa smiled and held his finger to his lips. Peter had fallen asleep beside him. This has been such a long night, Mama said gently to Papa. You must be exhausted. Let's all get some sleep and finish unpacking the trunk later. Anna leaned around the end of the trunk and tugged Kirsten's shirt. Do something, she whispered. At least find the sweaters from Mormor, Kirsten said to Mama, and the pillow covers you wove for Aunt Inger. Unpack at least that much. Mama didn't need to be urged. Piece by piece, she began to lift their precious things from the trunk. She handed them to Aunt Inger, who laid them on the table. Kirsten watched for her chance, and while Aunt Inger was exclaiming over the pillow covers, Kirsten slipped the white nightdress from the trunk and handed it to Anna. The red sash was right next to it, inside Peter's cap. Anna shoved them both under her sweater. Out the corner of her eye, Kirsten saw Elizabeth climbing down the ladder from the loft. She had their crown and the candles wrapped in a quilt. The girls met at the far end of the kitchen by the door into the shed. Here's the tray, Elizabeth said, and Miss Winston's ready. Quick, put on the dress, it's cold. Kirsten slipped off her dress and shawl and pulled the white nightdress over her head. Next came the red sash. Finally, Elizabeth fitted the crown on Kirsten's head and lit the candles. Oh, Kirsten, Anna breathed, you look like an angel. We're almost ready now, Elizabeth said as she lit the candles on the tray. Miss Winston came hurrying into the kitchen. I told everyone to shut their eyes, and then I turned down the lamps. Come now, they're waiting. Anna and Elizabeth scampered across the kitchen ahead of Kirsten. Kirsten lifted her head high, took a deep breath, and walked slowly, holding the tray of coffee and bread. The big room was dim, except for the light of her crown. Kirsten paused in the doorway. She saw everyone waiting with their eyes closed, as Miss Winston had asked them to do. St. Lucia invites you to breakfast, Kirsten said. And for just a moment, the room was still. The only sound was the crackle of the fire in the stove. Then the commotion began. Peter rubbed his eyes. Oh, it's Christmas time, he cried. Everyone called out, Merry Christmas, and what a wonderful surprise. Kirsten looked around the room as she passed the St. Lucia tray to her family. Mama's blue eyes were shining, and Aunt Inger and Uncle Olaf were smiling with pleasure. Peter and Lars grinned and munched their bread. Miss Winston squeezed Anna's hand. Is this what it's like? Is this what it was like last Christmas in Sweden? Elizabeth asked Kirsten as she handed Papa a mug of coffee. Kirsten thought a moment about how she'd loved the home she'd left behind in Sweden. And then she smiled at the cousins that she liked so well. How happy she'd been tonight when she and Papa had finally found their way back to this new home, which was brightly lit for them in the dark. It's almost the same, but this year I think it's even better, she told Elizabeth. Yes, it is a better Christmas. I think it's the best one of all. And that is the end of our story. Hoped you liked it. And next time I'll read A Peek into the Past.